I am 109 years old and I can still do the New York Times crossword in pen every morning. I can tell you what I had for breakfast last Tuesday: oatmeal with blueberries, same as always. I can tell you the quadratic formula, the year the Battle of Hastings was fought, and the name of every student I failed in 45 years of teaching. There were only six. I remember all of them. People ask me all the time, Edna, how do you stay so sharp? Like it is some kind of magic. It is not magic. It is work. It is the same thing I told my students for 45 years. You want results, you put in the effort. Your brain is not different. So sit down, pay attention, and I will tell you what I know. First, let me tell you why this matters to me. My sister Helen, 2 years older than me, she got dementia in her 80s, watched her disappear for 10 years. By the end, she did not know my name, did not know her own children. This woman who used to run circles around everyone, who remembered every birthday and every grudge and every recipe our mother ever made, gone, just gone. My best friend Margaret, same thing. My cousin Stanley. Half the people I grew up with, they lost their minds before they lost their bodies. And I watched and I thought, that is not going to be me. I am going to do whatever it takes to keep this brain working until the day I die. And so far, so good. Now, I am not a doctor. I taught mathematics, not medicine. But I have read the research. I have lived 109 years and I have watched what happened to the people who did one thing and the people who did another. So here is what I know. First and most important, use your brain every single day, not just for easy things, for hard things. Things that make you think, I do a crossword puzzle every morning. Not the easy ones, the hard ones. The New York Times Saturday level if I can get it. And I do it in pen because it forces me to commit to my answers. I read books, real books, not just scrolling on a phone. I read things I do not already agree with because it makes me think about why I disagree. Your brain is like a muscle. If you do not use it, it gets weak. If you only use it for easy things, watching TV, looking at pictures on the internet, it gets lazy. You need to challenge it, learn something new, do math problems, play chess, learn a language. I do not care what it is as long as it makes you think hard. My sister Helen, God rest her soul, she retired at 60 and never opened another book, watched television all day, stopped doing anything difficult, and 10 years later, she could not remember her own name. Coincidence? I do not think so. Second, do not isolate yourself. I know. I know people are annoying. Believe me, I know. After 45 years of teenagers, I know exactly how annoying people can be, but you need them anyway. The research is clear on this. Loneliness is bad for your brain, really bad. When you are alone too much, your brain does not have to work as hard. No conversations to follow, no social cues to read, no arguments to have. And that is when it starts to go soft. I play cards with three other women every Thursday. I tutor kids in the neighborhood. Their parents bring them to me when they are failing algebra. I talk to my children. I argue with my grandson about politics. He is wrong about most things, but at least he makes me defend my positions. You do not have to like everyone. You just have to engage with them. Your brain needs the workout. Third, move. I do not mean run marathons. I am 109. I am not running anywhere, but I walk every day around the block to the store, wherever I move. There is something about physical movement that is good for the brain, gets the blood flowing up there. I do not understand all the science, but I understand the results. The people I know who sat around all day, their minds went faster than the people who kept moving. Simple as that. So get off the couch. I do not care if it is just 10 minutes. Walk, garden, do something. Your brain will thank you. Fourth, take care of the basics. Sleep and food. Not exciting, I know, but important. I sleep 8 hours every night. Same bedtime, same wake time, 7 days a week. None of this staying up late, sleeping in on weekends nonsense. Your brain cleans itself while you sleep. That is real science. They discovered that. All the junk that builds up during the day, your brain flushes it out at night, but only if you actually sleep. And food. Eat real food. Vegetables, fish, olive oil, the Mediterranean stuff. I am Polish. I grew up on pierogi and kielbasa. But I learned to cut the sugar, cut the processed junk. Your brain runs on what you feed it. Feed it garbage, it runs like garbage. Last thing, and this might be the most important, have a reason to get up in the morning, a purpose, something that matters to you. When I retired from teaching, I did not just stop. I started tutoring. I joined the library board. I stayed involved because I needed to be needed. When you have nothing to do, nothing that matters, your brain gets the message that it can shut down. It is not needed anymore. So it starts shutting down. After my Walter died, a lot of people expected me to just fade away. That is what widows do, they said. You just wait for the end. Please, I had things to do. I still have things to do. I have got students to yell at, crosswords to solve, grandchildren to correct. Find your purpose. It does not have to be big, it just has to matter to you. Look, I am 109 years old. I have beaten the odds in every way that matters. And I am telling you, this is not luck. I watched the people who got lucky and the people who did not. And the difference was not random, it was choices every day for decades. Small choices that added up. Challenge your brain, stay connected to people, move your body, sleep and eat right, have something to live for. It is not complicated. My students always wanted some trick, some shortcut. There are not any. There is just doing the work every day, whether you feel like it or not. That is true for calculus, and it is true for keeping your brain. I have got maybe a few more years, maybe not even that. But however long I have got, I am going to be here for it all the way, clear eyed and sharp tongued until the very end. Now, if you will excuse me, I have got a puzzle to finish. 43 across is giving me trouble. Go do your homework. I realize that many of you sitting there watching an old woman like me think that you have plenty of time. You think the golden years are a destination on a map that you won't reach for a long, long time. But the road is paved with the habits you form today. I remember being 40, then 60, then 80, and each decade felt like a blink of an eye. If you don't start respecting your cognitive health now, you are essentially leaving your front door unlocked and hoping no one wanders in to steal your memories. You wouldn't treat your bank account with such negligence, so why treat your consciousness that way? I sit here at my mahogany desk, the same one where I graded thousands of papers, and I look at the dust motes dancing in the light. Each one represents a thought, a memory, a moment of clarity. I refuse to let them settle into a layer of oblivion. I fight for every single one. I want you to understand that the work I talk about isn't a chore, it is a celebration of being alive. To think is to exist, to remember is to honor the life you've lived. Let's talk about the specific mechanics of the challenge I'm giving you. When I say learn a language, I don't mean just learning how to order a coffee in French. I mean diving into the grammar, the syntax, the way a different culture structures its very thoughts. When I was 95, I decided to brush up on my Latin. People laughed. Edna, they said, who are you going to talk to? Julius Caesar? I told them I wasn't doing it for conversation. I was doing it for the mental architecture. Translating Virgil requires a level of focus that keeps the neural pathways from rusting over. It is about the struggle. If you find yourself breezing through a task, it's not doing you any good. You need to feel that slight burn behind your eyes, that moment of frustration when the answer is just out of reach. That is the feeling of your brain growing. That is the sound of the gate staying open. Never settle for the easy path. The easy path leads to the fog. I recall a student from 1974, a boy named Arthur. He was brilliant but lazy. He would coast through my exams because he had a natural knack for numbers, but he never pushed himself. I told him then, Arthur, talent is a gift, but discipline is a choice. I see so many people today who are like Arthur. They rely on their gadgets to do the remembering for them. They don't know phone numbers, they don't know directions, they don't even know how to calculate a tip without a screen glowing in their face. Every time you outsource a mental task to a machine, a little piece of your cognitive independence withers away. I carry a notebook, I write things down, I do long division on the back of envelopes. These small acts of mental defiance add up over a century. They are the sandbags against the rising tide of forgetfulness. Don't let the convenience of the modern world turn your mind into a soft, useless sponge. There is a certain dignity in the struggle to remain present. My sister Helen's eyes toward the end, they were like windows into an empty house. The lights were on, but the furniture had all been moved out. I don't want that for you. I want you to be the master of your own house until the very last second. That means being honest about your failings. If you notice you're forgetting names, don't laugh it off as a senior moment. Tackle it. Use mnemonics. build a memory palace, engage with the problem like it's a failing grade on a midterm. You can't just hope for the best, you have to engineer the best. My life has been a series of deliberate actions designed to keep the darkness at bay. I wake up at 6 a.m., not because I have to, but because the discipline of the clock is a skeleton for my day. Without a skeleton, a day just collapses into a heap of wasted time. I want to speak more on the concept of purpose. Many people believe that retirement is the end of their contribution to society. They think they've earned the right to do nothing. That is a dangerous lie. The moment you decide you have nothing left to offer is the moment your brain begins its exit strategy. I've tutored 3 generations of the same family in this neighborhood. I've seen them go from struggling with fractions to becoming engineers and doctors. That keeps me tethered to the world. It gives me a stake in the future, even though I won't be there to see most of it. Your purpose doesn't have to be teaching. It could be gardening, or volunteering at the animal shelter, or writing your memoirs. But it must be something that requires you to show up. It must be something that would be missed if you weren't there. That missedness is the glue that keeps your identity intact. Consider the food you eat as fuel for a high performance engine. You wouldn't put cheap, watered down gasoline into a Ferrari, would you? Your brain is the most complex machine in the known universe, yet people feed it sugar laden cereals and chemically altered snacks and wonder why they feel brain fog. I remember the flavor of a real tomato grown in my father's garden in 1920. We didn't have all these processed options back then, and perhaps that was a blessing in disguise. We ate what the earth gave us. Today, you have to be a detective just to buy a loaf of bread. Read the labels. If you can't pronounce it, your brain probably can't use it. Stick to the basics. The brain is made largely of fat. Feed it the good fats, avocados, nuts, fatty fish. Treat your diet like a prescription for longevity, because that is exactly what it is. I often think about Walter. He was a quiet man, a librarian who loved the smell of old paper as much as I loved the precision of an equation. When he passed, the silence in this house was deafening. I could have easily let that silence swallow me whole. I could have spent my days staring at his empty chair, replaying our old arguments until they became my only reality. But I knew Walter wouldn't have wanted that. He loved my fire, as he called it. He loved that I never backed down from a challenge. So I used my grief as a catalyst. I turned the energy of missing him into the energy of helping others. I expanded my tutoring hours. I started a book club. I refused to let his absence become my vacancy. This is the secret to surviving loss. You must fill the holes left behind with something productive, or the weeds of despair will take root. The world is a very different place than the one I was born into. In 1915, the idea of a woman teaching mathematics was still a hurdle for many to jump over. I had to be twice as good and 3 times as sharp just to get a seat at the table. That struggle sharpened me. It gave me a thick skin and a keen mind. Today, things are easier in many ways, but ease is the enemy of excellence. When things are too easy, we lose our edge. I worry that the current generation is losing its edge because everything is delivered at the push of a button. You need to seek out friction, seek out the things that are difficult to do, walk when you could drive, write a letter when you could send a text, cook a meal from scratch when you could order in. This friction is what keeps the sparks flying in your mind. Let's revisit the idea of social engagement. It's not just about talking, it's about listening and processing. When I argue with my grandson, I have to hold his points in my mind, analyze them for flaws, and construct a logical rebuttal. That is a high level cognitive function. It's like a sparring match for the intellect. If you only surround yourself with people who agree with you, your brain goes on cruise control. You need the irritation of a dissenting opinion to stay sharp. It's like a pearl. It only forms because of a grain of sand. Don't be afraid of a little conflict. Embrace the debate. It keeps your blood pressure up in a good way and keeps your neurons firing in patterns they wouldn't otherwise use. I also want to emphasize the importance of sleep hygiene. People brag about how little sleep they can get by on as if it's a badge of honor. It's actually a badge of ignorance. During the deep stages of sleep, the glymphatic system in your brain becomes 10 times more active, literally washing away the metabolic waste of the day. If you cut your sleep short, you are essentially leaving the trash in the hallways of your mind. Over time, that trash piles up and leads to the very diseases I've spent my life trying to avoid. I don't care how busy you are. Protect your 8 hours like they are sacred. Put the phone in another room. Block out the light. Give your brain the time it needs to rebuild itself. You wouldn't expect a construction crew to work 24/7 without making mistakes. Don't expect your brain to do the same. Looking back over 109 years, the patterns become so clear. Life is a series of compounding interest or compounding debt. Every day you choose to learn something, move your body, or eat well, you are putting a deposit into the bank of your future self. Every day you choose the couch, the TV, and the junk food, you are taking out a high interest loan that you will eventually have to pay back with your health and your mind. I am the beneficiary of a century of good investments. I am not special. I was just consistent. Consistency is the most underrated virtue in the world. It's not about the big gestures. It's about the Tuesday mornings when you don't want to do the crossword, but you do it anyway. It's about the rainy afternoons when you'd rather nap, but you go for your walk instead. I want to leave you with a thought about the pen. I do my crosswords in pen because I'm not afraid to be wrong, but I am committed to being right. There is a psychological weight to a permanent mark. It forces a different level of deliberation. I want you to live your life in pen. Don't live tentatively as if you can just erase your mistakes and start over. Live with the weight of your choices. Take responsibility for your cognitive health. Own your routine. Be the person who decides how their story ends. I've written 109 years of my story. And while some chapters were heartbreaking and others were exhausting, they were all mine. I was the one holding the pen. Now, as the sun moves across my desk, I see that I've talked quite a bit, but that's the privilege of age, isn't it? To pass on the hard won lessons to those who still have the road ahead of them. Don't waste the information. Don't just nod and say that's nice and go back to your scrolling. Change one thing today, just one. Buy a book, walk around the block, call an old friend, start the investment. Your 109-year-old self is waiting for you at the end of the line, and she or he is hoping you make the right choices today. I've got my Saturday puzzle calling to me, and I suspect 43 across might be perseverance. It usually is. Go on now. There's work to be done. I suppose I should mention the importance of curiosity. Curiosity is the fountain of youth. Most people stop being curious somewhere in their 30s. They think they know how the world works, and they settle into their comfortable little grooves. But the world is always changing, always offering something new to understand. I recently asked my grandson to explain how the internet actually works, not just you click a button, but the actual infrastructure of it. He spent 2 hours explaining servers and fiber optics and packets of data. My brain felt like it was doing gymnastics. I didn't need to know it for my daily life, but I needed to know it for my mental vitality. Never lose the why and the how. The moment you stop asking questions is the moment you start aging in the ways that count. Even the physical act of writing, the way the pen feels against the paper, is a neurological event. The fine motor skills required to form letters and symbols are another way to keep the brain engaged. In my classroom, I always insisted my students take notes by hand. They complained, of course, but research now shows that the physical act of writing helps encode information into the brain more effectively than typing. It's that friction again. The slower process forces the brain to process the information more deeply. In my house, everything is analog where it can be. My kitchen timer is a mechanical dial. My calendar is a paper one on the wall. These small tactile interactions keep me grounded in the physical world. They prevent that feeling of floating away into a digital mist. I look at the photographs on my wall, my parents in their stiff Sunday clothes, my wedding day, my children's graduations. These aren't just pictures, they are anchors. I spend a few minutes every day looking at them and recalling the details: the smell of the lilies in my bouquet, the sound of the wind on the day we buried Walter. This active recall is another exercise. It's not just remembering, it's retrieving. Think of your memory like a library. If you don't go in and check out the books once in a while, the aisles get dusty and the librarian gets lazy. Keep the paths to your past well trodden. It helps maintain the continuity of yourself. You are a narrative, a long running story. Keep the plot lines straight. I want to emphasize that it is never too late to start. You might be 70 and thinking the damage is done. It isn't. The brain is remarkably plastic. It can form new connections at any age, provided it is given the right stimulus. It's like a garden that has been neglected. A little water, a little weeding, and a little sunlight can bring it back to life surprisingly quickly. Don't use your age as an excuse for mental lethargy. Use it as a reason for urgency. You have less time to waste, so use the time you have more effectively. Every day is a fresh opportunity to reinforce the walls of your mental fortress. I remember the Great Depression. I remember the hunger and the fear that hung over the city like a fog. We didn't have much, but we had our community. We had the stories we told each other on the front stoops. We had the games we invented with nothing but a ball and a stick. Those times taught me that the mind is the only thing the world can't take away from you. They can take your money, your home, your job, but your inner life is yours alone. That realization was a turning point for me. It made me realize that my education was my most valuable asset, and I've spent the rest of my life protecting it. Your mind is your ultimate sanctuary. Keep it clean, keep it organized, and keep it strong. In my later years, I've found a new appreciation for the arts. I never had much time for music or painting when I was working and raising a family, but now I find they stimulate parts of my brain that math never touched. I listen to Bach and try to follow the separate lines of the counterpoint. I look at a painting and try to understand the artist's use of perspective. This cross training of the brain is vital. If you've spent your life being logical, try something creative. If you've been creative, try something analytical. It forces your brain to build bridges between its different hemispheres. It creates a more robust and resilient network. As I look toward the horizon, I am filled with a sense of immense gratitude. Gratitude itself is good for the brain. It reduces stress hormones like cortisol, which are toxic to the hippocampus, the brain's memory center. I start and end my day by listing 3 things I am grateful for. It's a simple practice, but it keeps the brain focused on the positive, which in turn promotes a healthier chemical environment for your neurons. Today, I am grateful for the blueberries in my oatmeal, the clarity of the morning light, and the fact that I can still share these words with you. So here we are at the end of our talk. I've given you the syllabus, I've explained the logic. Now, the rest is up to you. You are the student now, and the world is your classroom. Don't fail the course. Don't be one of the 6 names I have to remember for the wrong reasons. Be the student who goes above and beyond. Be the one who puts in the work and reaps the rewards. I'll be here in my study with my Saturday crossword and my pen, rooting for you. Life is a beautiful, complex equation. Make sure you solve for joy and clarity. Go on now, your future is waiting.